some people who obtained some of these files and are familiar with the person who's familiar with the files, he goes under different names. Benjamin Netanyahu, as we know, is one of them. That's his first fake name. Benjamin Natia. Then there's John J. Sullivan, the Skippy kid from next door. Then there's John J. Sullivan Jr., just in case you oust him. So can you imagine John J. Sullivan, the wild and crazy guy called John J. Sullivan, was doing nights on the town, probably with Gary Busey over there in Malibu. Upon further examination, they also examined the dual citizenship of Mr. John J. Sullivan. My man, John J. Sullivan. Give him a round of applause, man. What if he played saxophone at a local jazz club? My man, John J. Sullivan. So according to U.S. law, Netanyahu remains a U.S. citizen. I'll be damned. 1982, left his job at a furniture salesman position to be a policy advisor over there at the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. Finally, Netanyahu has an ally in the cosmetic dynasty, Estee Lauder. He was getting his grubby hands in Estee Lauder cosmetics. He was the guy at Nordstrom's powdering your nose. He's selling you furniture and hammocks. And when he's not busy doing that, he's putting blush, lipstick on you and grandma at the mall. This is we are learning so much, aren't we? We are learning so much. Unbelievable.
Once again. So, yeah, I'm just getting out of the gym and look at this place. Where is this coming from? What kind of horror movie is this? Or is it the fact that we're just a world that's at war?
Something ain't right.
Lights out. Lights out. Cameras. Action. Not so fast. Not so fast. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Real Deal Mania's #1 late night show, the most shadow banned show in the world, World at War. I am your host here, right here in the late night, Dean Ryan, who is getting to you while we still have some power, while we still have some lights. Yes, that's the title of tonight's episode. Lights out. We've been talking about the 10 days, the 3 days, well, 3 to 5 days, some say 10 days of darkness for 5 years now. And many people all over the world and the country especially have bought, preparation food, emergency food, and we all ate it in 1 week. So what good did that do us? We're going to be getting into that tonight now as some major warnings are now underway that we need to know about, especially myself. And what does that mean? And what does the fog have to do with it? Well, we'll find out, because I'm telling you, it's either hitting the West Coast or it's following me personally everywhere I go now, because I cannot run into just a clear day, a clear sky, a cold and windy night. No, it comes with fog, the fog vid, as we titled it here, as you saw there. So just a spooky, scary movie that we've seen before, and we know the ending, and somebody's going to get hurt, I think. So we'll see what that's all about. Plus, in addition to the power grids of life getting really challenged out there, we're going to be getting into some real deal politics here tonight, because some major movement outside of the power grid is underway as AOC is making her move on, yes, Charles Schumer, the husband of Tim Allen. Yes, that's exactly right. We're going to see what that entails. And what about Marjorie Greene Taylor? She's making her moves too. Well, someone who's going to be making moves themselves to the stage, that is Jim Fetzer, will be joining us in our Real Deal Politics segment to see what it's all about. And the term drill, baby, drill is back in action. And it pains me to say that. It's just so novelty at this point, but you know what I mean. So what does Gavin Newsom have to say about that? Is he going to grandstand? Is he going to do the long-legged Mac Daddy disappearance? We'll find out. Yes, we will. And some major escalation in the World War IIIs. Yes, as the new Pirates of the Caribbean are, the Americans at this point, as we're now doing target practice on fishermen, allegedly. What does this have to do with war? And what is that war good for? Well, certainly not for us. Who could it be for? That's right. If you said Samoans, you might have won. Okay, so there's that one. Plus, a very weird, bizarre story from Tucker Carlson and a demonic possession that is being provoked on him. Now, as an expert that I am on sleep paralysis and everything, demonic nightmare dreams, we're going to analyze that in the lower second half here tonight, as I'm a professional everything, and we'll see what that is all about. Okay, before we get started, we are broadcasting live on The Real Dean Ryan over there on Facebook. Hello, if you can see me. I'm waving at you. I don't know if you can, but I feel the love in the shutdown. Okay, we're also on DeanRyan TV on YouTube. Yes, the free and so unfair platform that it is. Hello to you all. And also, I have to say this too. I wrote it down, my notes. I never do this. Okay, well, that's not the notes. It's the tartar sauce, damn it. Okay, the notes would have said, if you are on Rumble, please make sure to subscribe to this page. They're now unsubbing longtime regulars, even our administrators over there who are in the live chats are getting unsubbed. I mean, I see people subbing on Rumble every day, but they there's no movement. I'm punished. And with that said, I hate Rumble. I hate it. Okay, let's get started now with some headlines from around the world and in your neck of the woods. Before the power goes out, shall we? I think we shall. I could listen to that little keyboard for about 5 minutes, couldn't you? We just take a moment of silence. Okay, let's continue now. Well, this is a very concerning thing here in the ionospheres. Is now a power grid warning has now been issued. That's right. It's now been issued in 11 states. And I'm going to tell you the 11 states. And if you're one of those 11 states, I would start carrying candles around immediately, Well, get this now. Warnings have now been issued for portions of the U.S. and its electric power grid amid a forecasted severe geomagnetic storm. And if you haven't been in one of those before, let me just tell you, it's like magnetic and magnets all in one. It's frightening. Well, in this sense, the Space Weather Prediction Center, which I subscribe to, and it's part of the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. Two organizations that are just lovely issued the forecast just today, saying the geomagnetic storm at a strength of category G4 would cause issues with the electric grids for states of the 45th peril. Yes, that's not just Cleon Star Trek talk. Let me tell you more about it now. States north of the latitude include, here are the states: Oregon, Idaho, Montana, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin. That's right, Wisconsin. We're going to have to get Jim to carry his lantern around next to his, what is it, powder gun? I forgot what guns he has. As well as Michigan, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and wait for it, that's right, Maine. Those are the states. Again, that's Oregon, Idaho, Montana, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Yes, those are the states that are now under a emergency preparation of a magnetic storm. That's right. Well, now the power grid stability underpins everyday life now in the U.S., ensuring homes and businesses have reliable electricity. We know we count on it, and they count on us for now. As the solar activity threatens to disrupt the electrical communications infrastructure, officials now must repeatedly and rapidly respond to the risk of large-scale outages and equipment failures. Yeah, that might happen, may not happen, unlikely that it may not happen, but it may happen. Now, the recent warnings come as a demand for energy surges to levels not seen in over a decade. Why could that be? What do you think? Could it be all the AIs and all the smart cities on the electrical grid? They're trying to bring everybody. Absolutely correct. Driven by the both climate-related changes. See, this is where the article lost me. They had me until they went back into the Bill Nye the Science Guy kind of methodology there. Now, as well as the expanding footprint of AI-powered data centers, like I just said. See, they lower it and then they build it, and now the Department of Energy, now the DOE, and independent grid operators all alike have now said in a July press release not that long ago, without the swift intervention and updated infrastructure, well, certain U.S. regions could face substantial power loss interruptions in the years ahead, if not just weeks and months, threatening critical services and economic resilience. Ended very bold there. You feel that? So what we're looking at is, and I thought it was very suspect when people like Tom Hanman, the czar over there for the border, started appearing in solar flare commercials right next to the gold 401k commercials. Well, you had Tom Hanman, and that tells me that they knew something or know something's coming, and they want to profit from it. You see, they don't play games here. They don't play games. Now, in addition to this, this is where the fog comes in. Now, there's also been another warning issued now to people in California, where have been warned of hazardous driving conditions as of today as a dense fog swathed the region. You don't say. I thought that was just my hot breath following me everywhere. Well, now people have reached out to the National Weather Service once again, who's always available for comment and very familiar with these matters. Well, now they've said why it matters. Well, now they're saying that the dense fog is a real problem, as the fog advisories now across several Southern California counties, including LA, Orange, San Diego, Santa Barbara, Santa Luis Obispo, and Ventura. Well, these warnings affect more than 10 million people with significant implications for commuters and road safeties throughout the region. And people are driving more like maniacs today with all the miracle jabs all these years later. It's getting worse and worse. And literally, there's a fatal car accident in Huntington Beach pretty much every fortnight, sad to say. Now, because of this, travelers are urged to exercise, no, not physically, but exercise heightened caution, that is, until conditions improve. So, if you're just getting in your car and you're not exercising your heightened cautions and your cautionaries, well, then what are you driving for? You're playing with death there. So let's start getting the cautionary tales out and really pay attention here. Now, because of this, in addition to this, here's another warning for you: we should just call the show here tonight just a big warning. Well, get this now. Once again, flight disruptions are now underway, even as the shutdown has skirted to the side for a moment. Well, the flight disruptions will continue to persist even after a shutdown ends. Airlines are now warning. See, more warnings. There you have it. Well, as the it's been a fifth day of flight disruptions that have now played out as the airlines caution that it will take time for travel schedules to snap back, even after an agreement to reopen the federal government. It's going the distance, is going for speed all alone, right on the runway it is in the time of need. Well, as the Senate bill is now planning to end a shutdown, it's expected to be taken up by the House as of, tomorrow. But should lawmakers fail to move quickly, which I've yet to see one move that very swiftly, well, Transportation Secretary and MTV star himself, Sean P. Duffy, Sean P. Duffy. It can't be my dyslexia. It's Sean. Okay, that's his name. Yeah, that's right. Sean Duffy. Wow, that's confusing. Warned Tuesday that there will be serious consequences for air travel. There's going to be some serious consequences, and they want you to practice a heightened caution before you travel as well. Now, here's what they're saying. The experts are now saying that if the House, here's a quote from Duffy himself. He said, if the House does not pass this bill, you're going to look at a Saturday, Sunday, and Monday as tiddlywinks. He's referring to a 3-day span that saw nearly 7,000 flight cancellations and more than 28,000 delays. It's going to get much worse than that. So this is just a huge conundrum. It makes my urge already to not travel to exceptionally not want to travel now for the holidays. Are you going to plan on traveling knowing all this? So let's see. You have a magnetic storm. Okay, you have unbelievably toxic Avenger fog following you everywhere. You have crazy miracle jab drivers. You have crazy migrant drivers who drive on the wrong side of the road. It just depends what state you're in. Then you have the power grid takedown. Then you have cargo planes and airplanes, helicopters just falling out of the sky. Well, to grandma's house we go. Is that what we're supposed to take from it? So, yeah, I'll be having a TV dinner this Thanksgiving, won't you? Won't you? That is just something else. So that one there is the headline news continues now. Well, that's going to bring us now to World War III, because this is something very, there's my lights out. So there I am, minding my own business. Boom, get hit by a magnetic storm. Does that ever happen to you? In real time. Well, now that brings us to World War III. Let's talk about it, because caring is sharing now. Well, now World War III now brings us to some of the most updated news coming out of major maritime trafficking and traffickers amid rising tensions over there in Venezuela. Yes, the new pirates and the parrots of the Caribbean now could not just be the Somalis anymore. It could be the Americans and the Make Israel Great Agains. Well, now the U.S. has escalated maritime strikes against suspected drug traffickers amid rising tensions over there in Venezuela. Yes, they have. Those tuna boats are not to be trusted. And there's a lot to be said about that, as that is a practice from China, as they did attempt to do those kind of acts as pretending to be fisher boats, 400 fishing boats going into the Philippines, if you recall. But this one's a little more intricate, as we're going to get to the bottom of it now, as the Trump administration has now escalated its counter-narcotics operations over there in Latin America. That's right, launching a lethal maritime strike and deploying a large naval fleet near Venezuela, prompting accusations of militarization. Yes, that's true. Well, the Secretary of War, Pete Megaseth, defended the strikes as necessary for U.S. security. And they got in the way of the bomb. They got in the way of the bullets. What are they doing? Now, but critics now question the legalities and the evidence linking the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, to drug cartels. Now, declassified intelligence in statements from the Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, who was just recently groped in Mexico City, if you recall. Well, she challenged Washington's claims, revealing no direct evidence between Maduro's control over trafficking networks to begin with. As he even, if you recall, just earlier in the year, he even offered all these documents and all the transparent information that he had to the Trump administration. But it's Marco Rubio who's keeping Donald Trump insulated once again, and if not poisoned, who's now managing the entire region, sadly. Now, the operations have also sparked backlash over the war power limits, with narrowly defeated resolutions seeking to restrict further strikes and prevent expansion into Venezuelan territories. Now, analysts warn that the campaign sets a dangerous precedent by merging counterterrorism, counter narcotics authorities, now risking regional instability, eroding congressional oversight of the military force, and further eroding the American reputation, if it's even possible at this point. It's disgusting because nobody who voted for Donald Trump voted for this. That's for sure. That's for sure. Continuing with World War III, well, that finds us now in another high-level tensions with, some more warnings, if you can believe it. And that's going to bring us now to the new U.S. sanctions with Russia. Hear about this? Well, and another disappointment in a downward spiral that we haven't seen since the Trump 1.0 towards the tail end. Well, now Trump has now exempted Hungary from U.S. sanctions on Russian energy for at least 1 year. At least 1 year. At least that. Well, now Donald Trump has now exempted Hungary from Russian oil sanctions during Prime Minister Viktor Orban's Washington visit recently, allowing the continued crude imports from Russia to Hungary. Now, the exemption acknowledges Hungary's reliance, 86% of crude oil supply, and logistic constraints, reinforcing Orban's domestic stance against EU sanctions. Now, the move frustrates Kyiv, of course. Alleged president and current, drag queen Zelensky seeks to cut Russian oil shipments to Hungary, framing it as a strike against Moscow's war financing. And what the hell does that guy know? What does he know? And he doesn't know anything. And I'm beginning to think a lot of people who are in charge are not knowing anything, or it's even him still. Is this still a theatrical display now? Now, critics also warn an exemption weakens the collective pressure on Russia. Yes, it does, potentially encouraging other dependent nations now. Some say even Slovakia to demand similar concessions. In conclusive matters, Orban leverages the deal to secure U.S. nuclear energy investments, $20 billion, and position Hungary as a mediator, hinting at a Budapest-hosted Trump-Putin peace summit while mocking NATO's pro-Ukraine stance. Yeah, we should always mock NATO. Every day we wake up, as we're looking for the heightened cautions of the day, well, we should always mock NATO because they're not our friends, and I hate them. Continuing now. Well, that now leads us to this here. As you know, there's been a ceasefire over there in Gaza. We know that. Other countries know that. I'm not sure Netanyahu knows that, or Israel for that fact. No, they don't, as they've been bombing Gaza continuously, and even Lebanon to add to the mix. Well, the question is now being posed and waged of why Israel is still striking Gaza and Lebanon after ceasefires. Clearly, I guess they don't know that because they're the chosen ones. Hello? I mean, when you're the chosen ones, you can do anything. It's like that movie, The Golden Child. Well, now it's been 1 month since the Israeli and Hamas factions now reached the first phase of the Gaza ceasefire proposed by President Donald Trump. And the anniversary looms of a separate U.S.-backed truce in Lebanon reached between Israel and Hezbollah all the way back in November of 2024. Yet the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, continues to conduct operations on both fronts. Yeah, they're just doing what the chosen ones do. So now the IDF spokesperson, Lieutenant Colonel Nadav Shoshani, argued the Israeli attacks into countries are justified due to ongoing enemy actions and attempts to rebuild capabilities ravaged by the 2-year war that has rocked the Middle East. Now, this is very interesting because Gaza, which is completely flattened, and the Trump 20-point peace plan, if you have not read it, heard it, or felt it, it is a imperialistic nature that's still giving full control of Gaza, Palestine, to not just Israel, but the Rothschild banking system over there in England. Yes, the city of London. I have read it, and I have discussed it, and I gagged. Well, now in Gaza, where the regional conflict began, Hamas launched a massive surprise attack, so we're told, 2 years ago. Now, several attempts at peace were pursued by then President, dead or alive, Joe Biden, whose administration managed to secure a last-minute deal with the backing of the incoming Trump team just a day ahead of the inauguration of January. Now, that three-stage deal brought the first sustained period of calm in over a year, but collapsed in March over Israel's Hamas disputes over how to progress to the second phase, which it doesn't benefit anybody who's Palestinian going to the so-called second phase. It gives the occupiers, who are perceived as occupier by legal and law definition by the United Nations, it gives them exactly the same power they had on October 7th, on October 6th. Nothing's changed. Now, the next major breakthrough would not occur until last month when Israel and Hamas once again agreed to the first phase of even more comprehensive 20-point plan outlined by the White House, which is a complete and utter disgrace. Let me tell you, if you're in your homeland and you have a superpower foreign body dictating your life, your community, it is that disgusting. Now, as far as Lebanon is concerned, now Israel has continued to press forward with its strikes over there in Lebanon because it's part of the greater Israeli project, as you know, despite the ceasefire agreement reached back in November of last year. Now, the deal put an end to the most intensive era of the Israeli military action in Lebanon since the month-long war that began in 2006, with the IDF simultaneously conducting bombardments of suspected Hezbollah positions and sending troops from south to north. Operations took a decisive turns, as you know, from that war and continue to define the relations between the two countries, as one is a rogue adversary that has and knows no boundaries, no oversight, as Lebanon's government has been caught between the two sides of, do they stand with Prime Minister of Lebanon or the President, Joseph Aoun? So it's a different kind of political system there that's complicated in both sides. And that's how that one goes. Very interesting here. Jim, I'm going to bring you in because I don't want to go forward without looking back first. Let's welcome to the stage Jim Fetzer. Thank you for being here tonight. Jim, you just heard that. We have power grids going down. We have fogs. We have a belligerent government in Israel that's getting us into war with Venezuela. So my question is, just for starters, what's going to kill us first? The power grid, the fog, the magnetic storm, or the Israeli war they're dragging us into? What are you putting your casino chips on there?
Well, let me just say, Dean, I thought you were doing a wonderful job of dissecting the latest news. I was very, very impressed. I liked it. As far as these electromagnetic storms, they're very, very threatening. I think that Russia's beefed up Venezuela and Iran sufficiently and has all but decimated the Ukrainian army that I do not see war breaking out in any of those three hot spots anytime soon. I think basically the situation has been resolved because of Russia's decisive action in, for example, supplying S-400s to Venezuela which means that the whole Venezuelan airspace is a no-fly zone for American fighter jets. They'll be shot down. And as I've explained on other occasions, I'm certain Maduro already had the Russian anti-ship missiles that would enable them to sink the entire American flotilla should hostilities break out. And we know, of course, Iran has already been bristling with defensive weapons it didn't have in the past. And of course, Putin invited foreign journalists to come and observe how the Russian army had encircled about 10,000 Ukrainian troops, and it was devastating psychologically, politically, internationally, Dean. So I think the hot war spots have cooled down. Therefore, I'm inclined to think if you're right about these electromagnetic threats, that they may be what is the greatest hazard for us today.
Okay, so Jim's putting his casino chips on the magnetics, but could it be said that the war is being fought unconventionally, Jim, with weather weaponries that we're not even really familiar with? In fact, this just happened today in China. A new bridge completely collapsed. Very unlikely that it was just because of the Chinese lead paint, but here it is. In fact.
哦吼，敲不跌喽，敲不跌喽。
So that's crazy. Go ahead, Jim.
That could easily have been a space-based weapon. Yeah, that could have been a laser directed energy. I'm shocked, Dean. I mean, that was you suggest this was a relatively newly constructed bridge. It's rather preposterous. It's not going to fall of its own accord, Dean. It had to have a little help.
That's what I'm saying, Jim. It's pretty much now just a bridge to nowhere. It costs a lot of money, and they're still having that real estate scandal and collapse over there in the Evergreens. But sticking with China, it's hard to imagine that China's the greatest threat to our democracy. And then when you see the American president signing peace deals with Chi-Chi, to stop the fentanyl. At this point, is it safe to say that China is probably not the greatest threat to American way of life that we might have thought it was 5 years ago?
Dean, it hasn't been the case for 15, 20 years that China has been the biggest threat. It has always been our gallant ally in the Middle East, Israel, that's undermining democracy, expending U.S. resources. Jimmy Dore had an explanation of how much money we sent Israel over the last, say, 20 years. 1.4 trillion. We're constantly told it's only $3 billion a year. It's nothing like that. It's overwhelmingly more. Check it out. Shocking.
Yeah. We showed that over the weekend. You might have, the viewers must remember that with a T now, 4 trillion since 1973. That's how many nations' GDP budget for the fiscal years. That it's a lot. Jim, we're going to hit to some real deal politics before we go to a break. So I'm going to put you back in the dugout real quick here. Stand by there. Okay. Well, Jim's going to come back here. Well, now it's time to get to some real deal politics, just the way you like it, shall we? Real deal politics, just the way you and I both like it. Well, now Democrats are in what they call disarray. That's right. Not Tangeray, but disarray. Now, Democrats in disarray as 8 senators break party ranks and join the GOP, the Grand Ole Opry, to end government shutdown. The nerve. Well, now the U.S. government shutdown has now ended after the Senate passed a continuing resolution to reopen its operations. Yes, it has. All the concession stands, you name it. Approximately 800,000 furloughed federal workers will receive back pay. Yes, they shall. Now, 8 Democratic senators crossed party lines to vote with Republicans, securing a passage of 60 to 40. 60 to 40, which, if my calculations are right, that's a total of 100 votes. Now, key defectors included Dick Durbin, Mr. Dick Durbin, the man who wanted to bring migrants into the U.S. military to give them citizenship and then tell them to go fire at will against the American citizens, as well as that demonic creature, Tim Kaine. He was one of them. And one of the John Fettermans even voted. Yes, that's exciting. And some other lesser known that really didn't make the marquee here tonight. Well, the deal included a promise from the GOP leadership to hold a vote on the Affordable Care Act. The ACA, yes, and its subsidies. Now, critics argue the ACA subsidies funnel taxpayer money to insurance companies, reinforcing corporate control of the healthcare. The system excludes natural medicine. It lacks transparency, increases taxes while benefiting big pharma. It's a real slap into the face of the little guy, as in little pharma. Well, Trump has now accepted the deal, but expressed dissatisfaction, preferring direct healthcare funding to citizens rather than insurers. Now he's vowed to push for reforms, ensuring that, quote, the people get the money. Yes, show me the money as instead of corporate middlemen. Now, because of the air travel disruptions, it's now the temporary funding is now being pushed to at least until January of 2026, avoiding and addressing the core border security disputes, risking another shutdown if negotiations fail. So we'll go through this again in just about 2 months. And that is quite exciting, to say the least. Okay, so here is that's what's happening with that one now in real politics. Now, here is a grave injustice now corrected. And here's some positive news, because even the Grim Reaper has a good day every now and again. Well, now a grave injustice has now been corrected. This is coming out of Natural News now, as Trump has now pardoned patriots persecuted for questioning the 2020 election. Can you believe that even happened? You know, when all this stuff was happening all these years ago, I thought it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen ever. It was so stupid. Nobody believed it was even going to be a real prosecution of sorts, or in persecution for that fact. But, well, indeed it did. Well, this just happened today. Now, as Donald Trump has now granted full pardons to over 70 allies, including Rudolfo Giuliani, Sidney Powell, not Portier, Sidney Powell, Mark Meadows, for conduct related to challenging 2020 election results. Now, the proclamation aims to correct what it describes as a, quote, grave national injustice perpetrated against these individuals. These pardons protect the recipients from federal prosecution, but do not shield them from ongoing state-level legal battles, sadly. The move has now ignited fierce debate, while supporters hailing it as justice and critics, usually, per usual, condemning it as an abuse of power. Never mind Biden's pardons of that abuse of power to Adam Schiff. Is he still alive? Has anyone seen him? Check your tires. Also, the action underscores Trump's continued focus on the 2020 election, as he maintains that the process was flawed. Yeah, and you know what? If it was me, I'd be screaming at the loudest, the most highest mountains of all, if that was stolen from me. But yet he's still subdued. I'm not sure what he has in store, but it seemed to be something. It's now the grave injustice has been corrected. Well, we are thankful and grateful for that. Well, here's something else coming out of the grave injustice treasure chest is now Gavin Newsom. Well, sadly, we found him. Well, now Newsom is now reacting to a report of Trump's new California oil drill plan. Yes, the drill, baby, drill. Well, now the alleged California governor, Gavin Newsom, just said today, as he's now dismissed reports of President Donald Trump's plan to expand oil drilling off the state's coast, the state of California, that is, calling the proposal a dead on arrival in California. Well, this is why it matters, they're saying. Now Trump has now promised an oil and gas drilling boom aimed at delivering low fuel prices and energy independence for the United States and its people. And yes, the people in Tel Aviv as well. Well, the opposition to resumption of a drilling of California from Newsom, a likely contender for the 2028 Democratic presidential now. I hope he does run, because let me tell you, Jim and I, we watched the the Florida governor, what's his name, Ronald DeSantis, and Newsom. That debate, who remembers that one from last year? That was probably the best debate we saw in a long time. We had a tremendous night. That was a lot of fun. So I hope he does run. Well, now he's now emerging as Trump's main antagonist. Can you believe that? Sets them up for a confrontation that could help shape both the political battle in the run-up midterm elections next year and America's energy future. So we have a lot to look forward to as President-elect Newsom is now making his way, checking it twice. Yes, he is. And also, finally, before we'll bring Jim in here in a second, here is now another making its way is happening as Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, AOC to some, is now said to be challenging Chuck Schumer. Yes, Chuck Schumer, the guy that got caught with his babysitter. Yeah, and can you blame him? Have you seen the wife? You know, but yeah. So now Sky News is reporting this as well, that Chuck Schumer, who will retire under the pressure of AOC, they're saying, is now vying for his Senate seat as we speak. Many people are speculating that at some point sooner, if not later, AOC is going to challenge him for the Senate seat of New York. In fact, Charles Schumer got so scared his hair plugs started falling out, and just indiscriminately. That's how bad it is and how serious it's getting. Well, the future is now in anyone's guess, as AOC, as you know, I forgot she's a congresswoman. In fact, we know she's an actress. We know she went to a certain Boston University. Jim, I'm going to bring you in here because I know you followed Chuck Schumer's career at great length, and in AOC, we both followed her career too. Is she just, is this even possible? I mean, at one breath, it said that she's going to be running for president for the Democratic nomination. At the other breath, she's now challenging Chuck Schumer. Is it going to make a difference at all at this point? I don't think anyone's voting Democrat for the long haul. Do you? Jim, you're muted.
She's twice as smart as Kamala, Dean, but 2 times 0. What does that mean? I've never thought anyone would take her seriously. Minority leader, presidential candidate, that just seems to me ludicrous. But look who the Democrats have run in the past. I mean, if they're going to go with a brainless Biden and completely witless Kamala, my goodness, maybe it's a new Democrat tradition to put up the least competent and most unintelligent members. I mean, I like her better than either of those two, but really, she doesn't meet the bar of being qualified for those offices.
Now, Jim, let's not set the all the rights that women have fought for. Let's not set it back 50 years. Do you mind? You can only go up from Chuck Schumer.
You can only go up from Chuck Schumer. Well, heck, Aim Jeffries, too, hasn't been doing too great a job, it seems to me. I mean, surely the Democrats can find somebody qualified to run for these positions.
Jim, who would you rather look at, Chuck Schumer or AOC at the on the floor? You know what I mean? You have to look at it in those terms.
That isn't the question, unfortunately. Sure. She has a certain glam quotient Schumer never possessed.
That's true. And okay, I wanted to 2 more things before we go to a break. Here is someone else who's now vying for the new leader of the MAGA movement, I guess you could say, is Marjorie Greene Taylor. And I want to get your take on this, Jim, as she's now ramping up her rhetoric, as it's said to be that she purposely was told to postpone her run for a Georgia Senate seat because Trump told her personally not to make that run and stay where she is. But check this piece out, and then we'll get your take on it.
I serve on the Oversight Committee, so I'm involved in that investigation. And there was a batch of emails released just recently that showed that Jeffrey Epstein worked closely with Israel on different military contracts their intel agencies, Mossad, and so forth.
I've been reliably told you're anti-Semitic if you say that.
Yeah, that's like the thing. But MIGA cannot override MAGA. And I can criticize any foreign country that I want to because I'm an American and I have free speech.
MIGA being Make Israel Great Again.
Yes. And it's not anti-Semitic to criticize a government. It's not. And it's not anti-Semitic to talk about Jeffrey Epstein and his ties with any foreign country, whether it was Israel or the UK or the United States, or that's not anti-Semitic. And it's not hating on anyone. I certainly don't hate anyone, but I definitely am concerned about any country's, a foreign country's influence on our own, especially when it comes to members of Congress.
Wow, Jim, I've never heard so much anti-Semitic trope in my entire career. You want to add to that because, well, Trump said she lost her way. So, which way is she going?
Nah, she's going in the right direction. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing of expanding the definition of anti-Semitism to include any criticism of Israel, even for genocide, was manifest absurdity. It was self-serving. It was to try to excuse Israel. The Zionists are buying up all the media. They bought up Paramount. They've got control of CBS. They got TikTok. You name it, they're controlling it. They're trying massively to suppress criticism of Israel, but Dean, it's too late. Too little, too late. The genie's out of the bottle. Everyone has seen Israel for its true character: cruel, sadistic, inhumane, genocidal, disrespectful of international law, careless about the UN Charter, Geneva Convention, Hague Convention. They don't give a damn. If it's a Palestinian, they want to kill him. And it's outrageous, and the world sees it all too clearly. No going back.
Not the entire world, Jim, as it's remaining to be seen here, as someone who's trying to put the genie back into the Tel Aviv bottle, is Ben Shapiro himself, a man who appeared on this show for our members. If you haven't seen that, you'll see it soon. Well, here's a little sample of what happened today.
I think that on a sort of public policy level, reparative policies don't tend to be nearly as effective as people want them to be, historically.
Look at those eyebrows.
They work for Jewish people.
Oh, my God.
In what way?
Jewish people have received reparations.
You mean Holocaust reparations, for example, from Germany? So I think that first of all, that there was like a gigantic fight actually in Israel over whether Holocaust survivors should accept reparations from Germany, because the idea was that it's allowing them to expiate their sins of the past, and they shouldn't be allowed to expiate those sins, and it's allowing them to sort of buy off the history for $50,000 or whatever it is. But that is not the reason why Israel has become successful economically. Like, just on a success level, the reality is that cutting people checks rarely makes them more successful from the government. What usually makes people more successful is a determined attempt to become the things that the meritocracy demands of you, right? So there were no long
I do
scale.
think the U.S. foreign assistance for Israel has helped financially.
Well, I mean, the U.S. foreign assistance for Israel actually is a bargain for the United States, because Israel doesn't need the money. I've said this before.
Well,
Israel,
give it to us.
I mean,
we'll take it.
That's fine.
The black community would gladly take it.
That's in it.
I can't speak for it.
Jim, do you want to say about that? Jim, he's backpedaling so fast, I can't even keep up. I think you're absolutely correct, Jim. They can't even put the genie back in the bottle, because even the common low IQ'd bird brain, like that gentleman's radio show, his name escapes me, when they know it, when that class knows it, it's game over, Jim. So how are they going to be a country going forward without the financial subsidies and subsidization by the U.S.?
Well, they want to suck us dry, Dean. They've been doing a pretty good job. I mean, 1.4 trillion. That's a pretty good start. I do think this Nick Fuentes is like a counterbalance to Shapiro. I really dislike Shapiro. I'm really impressed with Fuentes. Can you see the two of them going head to head, Dean? Wouldn't that be fascinating? I'm all for calling Israel to account. We've been used and abused for way too long. and we've got to bring it to a halt. And I'm all for Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm all for Thomas Massey. I'm all for everyone who wants to get Israel out of American government. Get them out. Get them out now. Yesterday was too late. Get them out.
Well, there you have it. Get him out now. Jim's new book might be called Get Him Out Now. He might be working on that soon. But something else he's working on is the big conspiracy panel coming up in just a matter of weeks. Is that right, Jim?
Oh, Dean, yeah, about a little over a month. 13th and 14th December, Saturday, Sunday, that's 6th false flag and conspiracy conference. I got 24 speakers, some of the best in the world. Nick Kollerstrom's going to be speaking. Oli Damagard is going to be speaking. I dare say this fellow right here ought to be speaking. We're going to have a great event. Mark your calendar. It's all free. You can have a dozen speakers on Saturday, a dozen speakers on Sunday by Zoom from the comfort of your own home. Mark your calendar now.
Mark your calendar now. Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful, the legendary Jim Fetzer. Thank you very much, Jim. And on that note, we're going to go to break, everybody. We'll see you after this one. Stand by.
You like me, you want to get to heaven, but you simply don't want to take your time, let alone wait in line? That's why I here at Tunnels to Heaven, we're going to get you to your final destination before the revelation, tribulation, and the strangulation. All you got to do is start giving, because forgiveness ain't cheap, it ain't free, and you got to give to forgive. So that's why sign up today. You can find it at a variety of locations, and underneath the synagogues, we got one in Brooklyn, we got one in Alabama, and we got one over there in Seattle, Washington. Get your fix before you get your kicks, and don't fall for any of these tricks. Get your Tunnels to Heaven membership today, because God's waiting, but he ain't gonna pick you up. Hold on, what's that?
What are you saying?
Oh, it's my turn to go in that tunnel. I'll see you guys later, and I'll see you in heaven.
Order your Tunnels to Heaven today. 1-800-TUNNELS. 1-800-TUNNELS.
How about that new band? Tweezer? I can't wait to see them live. I'm so excited, as I'm here weeknights, usually, give or take, flip a coin. Yes, I am. But tonight's show is brought to you by the Real Deal Media Night Owls. Yes, become a night owl. Become a visionaire with debonair. Be iconic, not ironic. Show some muscles from Brussels. Flex a little bit, live a little, love a lot. All you got to do is go to realdealmedia.tv and all is going to be there. And by the way, our store is going to be back up very soon. I'm actually going to be doing the Christmas sale slightly early after Black Friday. Just thought I'd let you know. And oh, my mic is on. I was talking to myself. So yeah, go to RealDealMedia.tv and join us tomorrow night. Actually, tomorrow night we're going to have a members only kind of affair. Tomorrow night we're going to go back into the 90s with all the members, and this weekend we're going to be doing a very special interview, which I'm going to tell you about. It's about Kurt Cobain. You don't want to miss that if you're a member. So become a Night Owl tonight, and thank you to all of you who have donated to the cause at givesendgo.com/realdealgo, givesendgo.com/realdealgo, for all and each and every penny helps fuel the operation. Yes, it does, and we need all we can get. As yeah, can you imagine? I have no monetization anymore because the powers that be want to rid me out of all the people they can. It's me. They're always going after, and also, a little PSA, a little public service announcement. If you are in the magnetic storm and the power grid goes out, well, watch out for these critters. You don't want to have an encounter with one of these little doohickeys here. So carry that flashlight and a pretty much a billy club too. You never know when you're going to have these little critters come running up to you. Anyways, welcome back now as we get back to World at War as the lights are out. As yeah, well, some of us look better with the lights out, don't we? Yes, we do. Or like Jim, though. Look at those mighty man legs. Yes, you missed it. Welcome back, everybody. I'm still RDM, your cruise director, cruising with you to midnight and beyond. But I love when we're cruising together because that's what it's all about here. We have a little bit longer to go and a short way to get there. Yes, we do. As we're going to be getting into the Real Deal Internationals because there's a lot to talk about. Well, let's get on the Concorde, shall we, and fly our way across the world. Here we go. Real Deal International. Let's talk about it, shall we? Well, this is another situation now. Just a quick update. I had a video, but I can't seem to locate it at this moment. But we can report a 20. This, by the way, this just happened the other day here. Another cargo plane, a C-130, a Turkish C-130 cargo plane, has now crashed in the country of Georgia. And all 20 military personnel have been killed. The Turkish government said today, in fact. I'm not sure who built the plane, but we can just pretty much speculate. It could have been McDonnell Douglas for that fact, or Boeing for that fact. But it is a developing story. But yeah, we're finding out that there's these planes or these helicopters that normally don't take passengers, but for some reason now they're just flying passengers in cargo planes, and it's a little unsettling, as now all 20 military personnel have perished, sadly. Well, there's that one. Continuing now, well, that brings us now to the UK, who is now saying they want to break up with us, as they should, because we want to break up with them. When it comes to intel sharing, that is. Yeah, this is now just happening. This is an exclusive just intel drop. Yes, it is now. As the United Kingdom over there in England has now suspended intelligence sharing with U.S. over boat strike concerns in a major break. We should have saw it coming. Well, the United Kingdom is no longer sharing intelligence with the U.S. starting today about suspected drug trafficking vessels over there in the Caribbean because it does not want to be complicit in U.S. military strikes that they believe are illegal. And I would say a good portion of the Americans believe it too, but sadly we're tied to the genocidal people who are forcing us to do it, I guess. Well, the UK's decision marks a significant break from its closest ally and intelligence sharing partner, us, I believe. It underscores the growing skepticism over the legalities of the U.S. military's campaign around Latin America to begin with. Yeah, I know this was a president that campaigned on starting no wars, stopping all wars, and being a prince of peace. What happened, and who's playing Trump now is my other question. That's what I thought. Well, for years, the UK, which controls a number of territories over there in the Caribbean where its bases intelligence assets, has now helped the U.S. locate vessels suspected of carrying drugs. Yes, so that the U.S. Coast Guard could intercept them. The sources have now said, that meant that the ships would be stopped, boarded, its crew detained, drugs seized, if not partaken in. Well, the intelligence was typically sent to a joint interagency task force over there that they shared with the U.S. over there in Florida that includes representatives from a number of partner nations and works to reduce the illicit drug trade. So they say. But shortly after that, the U.S. has now begun launching lethal strikes against the boats in September, if you can remember. However, the UK has now grew a healthy amount of concern that the U.S. might use intelligence provided by the British to select targets. Now, British officials believe the U.S. military strikes, which have killed an incredible amount of people now, 76 to be exact, it violates international law. Well, the source continue to say that the intelligence will be taking a pause, and the pause began over a month ago. We just didn't tell anybody, is what they said. So there you have it. Now, the British embassy over there in Washington and the White House did not respond for any formal or informal request at this time, but the Pentagon official has now told news media outlets that the department, quote, doesn't talk about intelligence matters. And that's what matters the most. Well, there you have it. So the UK just broke up with us once again, but they should really break up with themselves because they're killing their own people over there. They certainly are, and you don't have any freedom of intelligence or speech in that third world, soon-to-be third world country, it feels like. Well, that's what's happening over there in the UK. Now, here is another just a whopping of an affair. Now, this is now happening in the country of Belgrade, and I, for one, love this. I love this kind of sentiment now, as now hundreds have now demonstrated, took it to the streets, demonstrating against the son-in-law of Donald Trump. Yes, the ratatouille himself, Jared Kushner. Yeah, now hundreds protested just on Tuesday, today, against a plan to tear down a former army headquarters over there in the Siberian capital, Belgrade, to make way for a luxury hotel complex. A project linked to U.S. President Trump's son-in-law, Jared the Rat Kushner. Well, the student-led demonstration came 4 days after Parliament backed a special law classifying redevelopment of the bombed-out Yugoslavia Army headquarters as a urgent project, now speeding up the process of getting permits. Now, this is interesting here. Let me just tell you a bit more here. The plan by Kushner, who was completely out of the question, he was out of the framing the entire campaign. Nobody has heard him and what some believe is his fake wife, Ivanka, in 5 years. The only time we've seen Ivanka is when she was testifying against her father, when Elton Barr and Ivanka were taken into question for their complicity in the January 6th fiasco. But now all of a sudden he popped up like a groundhog. He planned to do this with Gaza before October 7th. That slipped up on a hot mic. This is really, really just outrageous. Now, the plan by Kushner, who is, they're saying married, they want to reinforce that he's married to Ivanka Trump. And then you start thinking, what? He's in the checks? When did this happen? Well, yes, he's married to Ivanka Trump, a former senior advisor to Donald Trump. Don't know what happened. Can't imagine. Well, is sensitive as the building was hit during U.S. NATO-led strikes that end. Okay, so what you got to know about Serbia is one of those countries that the Mossad is all up and down in, as Israel wants to take that back or put that into their pile of the Greater Israel Project. That's why certain alternative gonzo journalists has a lot to do with that region over there. And once I'm back in the swing of things here shortly, you're going to find out exactly what I'm talking about. Because he has the power to put hits on people. Well, it might work both ways. So that's what's happening. Yeah, so Serbia is in the microscope. It's in the targets, the crosshairs of Israel. And that's why Jared Kushner is heavily involved in the region. And yeah, they should be throwing shoes at that little, just that little ninny that he is. Furthermore, here, continuing just a little longer now, Netherlands is making a bold move, and I applaud this as well. So I have some just rather fantastic news now, as this is coming from the Natural News headquarters. Well, now Netherlands has made a bold move today to ban imports from illegal Israeli settlements. That's right. Well, the Netherlands is now advancing a national ban on imports from illegal Israeli settlements starting today. This action reflects a growing European impatience with the Israeli settlement expansion and the West Bank violence. It's growing, by the way. A group of 9 EU states is collectively urging the European Commission to end settlement trade like yesterday. Well, the legal path for such bans is complex, but was strengthened by a recent ICC, the International Court of Justice ruling, which I guess people are trying to take it seriously and they just wish they would do something. That's right. Instead of just, giving people little slaps on the wrist and the backside. Well, now to close, these import bans are seen as strong political message rather than a significant economic blow, I'd say. And if a state in this country, in the United States, any of these 50 states did such a maneuver like that, they would get their federal funding pulled from that state by this administration. That's how far up the Tel Aviv Creek we are right now. And that sickens me too, and contributes to an ulcer that could be forming. Now that brings us to Australia. Yes, that's right. Crikey, the Australians' rental market becomes the unwilling testing ground for the new, get this, digital national ID system. So if you rewind back 5 years ago of how these lockdowns were going to work, the potential thought and idea of implementing the concentration camps to put people that didn't want to get the miracle jabs, that all came about with New Zealand and Australia first. So where do you think they're going to test all of these new toys for the brave new world that they want to bring us from Palantir and BlackRock and all these people and the Trump administration? Well, yes, it's going to come to Australia once again. And if there was ever a time that a country should regret giving their firearms away, now would be the time. Well, now Australia's rental market becomes the unwilling testing ground for the digital national ID system, aka the B system. Well, the Australian government is now launching a pilot program that uses competitive rental market to normalize its digital ID system, requiring prospective tenants to verify their identity and share financial data. So, you know how hard it is to get an apartment now? You have to have your first month's and last month's rent. You have to have a security deposit. You have to have 3 to 4 to 5 references. You have to have 3 pay slips. You have to have, you got to bend over and cough. There's so many things you have to, all these loops, but they want to make it easier now. They just say, hand over everything to us in this new digital ID, and then you can go about your way and you'll have the luxury of having more time in your day. Well, that's where things are going to. And they always start in the countries where tomorrow's their favorite day of the week, and that's Australia. The lazy days. Yeah, there we go again. Well, while presented as a voluntary convenience at first, and then it becomes mandatory, and then they black bag you and throw you somewhere in Blue Mountain over there in Australia. True story. Well, while presented as a voluntary convenience to streamline applications, critics argue it's coercive, and not so cohesive system, as renters facing a housing crisis have no real choice but to comply to secure a home. That's right. And that's why they want to get rid of people who are in RVs, people that don't want to be part of the grid, people that will never qualify for, these apartments or these housing thing. They make it impossible. And so that's why what they're afraid of are the individuals who are not on the grid system, because that's the scariest thing to the collective, is the individual. Now, how does this work, you might ask? Well, the system combines a digital ID, who you are, library card, whatever the case may be, with consumer data rights. So your social crediting score. This is exactly in the same time frame that the head of BlackRock Larry Finkelman, this is exactly what he was saying just a week ago, that it's now time to implement the National Digital ID. Oh, you don't like all the migrants and all the violence? Well, that's going to be all taken care of with the new digital ID. So when you go into a retail store, you don't have to worry about looters anymore because they have the eye retina scanning, the thumbprint. They were training everybody for the past decade and a half, and here we are. Now we know why. So the system combines all of that, which shares your banking history, creating a powerful centralized profile of your identity and financial behaviors. Now, the pilot is seen as a critical step forward, making the digital ID system inescapable, with the inevitable expansion to other areas like voting, healthcare, age verification, following the model of nations like Iceland. That's right. Now, the centralization of the data creates a major risk, though, including the potential for government surveillance, which I say is beyond potential at this point. It's a given. The social control and loss of autonomy, all under the illusion of user consent. Well, I'll be a monkey's autonomy. That is just incredible. And finally here, that brings us now to a new but yet old segment, as sticking with the Real Deal Internationals. That brings us to Real Deal Bots. Real Deal Bots. And look at this bot. It looks so human. More human than human, don't you think? Well, here's something that's not so human. Is now China is now stepping into the arena with the Real Deal Bots, as they're now saying and unveiling the so-called, quote, iron humanoid robot. Yes, a great leap forward it is towards AI in the workforce, as the post-industrial revolution is now screeching far ahead of the human industrial revolution, or whatever we could have thought that was. But is it a step forward towards a dystopic future? Potentially, I'd say, but most definitely others. Well, Xi Jinping and all his fanfare over there unveiled a next-generation iron humanoid robot at its 2025 AI Day, featuring bionic muscles, flexible skin, and an AI brain powered by 3 Turing AI chips. That's something to be seen. Now, the robot's hyper-realistic design sparked conspiracy theories, prompting Gigi and his friends to release a footage proving its mechanical internals. Now, despite the civilian marketing, the robots turning AI chips, the Physical World Foundation model suggests that military applications are high probabilities at this point, meaning what we see in Oakland, the Oakland police are now using the RoboCops. It's just like the movie RoboCop. You now see a bunch of AI humanoid robots walking around Japan, China. They're surveying the area. This is Terminator stuff here. This is the next chapter of the war we have to fight. Now, it's a rapid rollout, mirrors Klaus Schwab's fourth industrial revolution, just like I was alluding to, fueling the fears of an AI-driven depopulation, mass unemployment, surveillance control. The technology poses the critical question: will AI liberate humanity, or enslave it in a dystopian post-human future? Well, if Klaus Schwab and his carcass has his way, I guess, and I think we know. Well, I think we know the answer, don't you? And that's how we see that one. Now, that's going to bring us to some real deal religionists.
On this day, now they crawl in underground tunnels that lead all the way to heaven. On this day, many
Real deal religionists. Let's talk about it. In this next clip that I'm going to set up for you first, Tucker Carlson talks about a demonic possession, an attempt that was taken on him. And it's not crazy to think, because when you have people like Lana Del Rey and all these witch covenants sending hexes to people, when we learned in the Ramsey case from Judge Long, what he talked about, the court system uses satanic psychics. I mean, you may not believe in this. Your neighbor may not believe in this, but the powers that be do. And, ask Nancy Reagan, she'll tell you. Wait, she passed on. Well, rather than me trying to pontificate this any further, listen to his explanation and his experience of what happened as Tucker Carlson talks about an attempt of a demonic possession on his life and his family. Here it is. We'll discuss after.
And then I go to bed with my wife and 4 dogs who sleep in the bed. My wife said 4 children. My dogs are hunting dogs. All 5 of them wake up like that. Like they are. We have no home invaders in my house. I wake up at 2:30 in the morning. I check and I couldn't breathe at all. My throat was closed. It wasn't like I was apnea or was strong as I couldn't breathe. So I get up. I stand in the doorway of our bedroom, and I'm like, wow, I'm dying. I could feel myself starting to gray out. And then I started walking in the backyard, and then it slowly came back. Like my throat kind of opened up a little bit. I was like really weirded out. I walk back in, and my wife wakes up. She goes, what is going on? I said, I don't know. I can't breathe. I feel better now. And all of a sudden, I had this horrible pain underneath my arms, like on the side of my chest. Like bad. I thought I'd been like ripped with a knife or something. It just was very intense. So I go into the bathroom, I flip on the light, and I have claw marks on both sides, on right and left side on my ribs, and they're bleeding. And they're literally claw marks, 4 on either side. I put my fingers in them, don't fit my fingers, and I sleep on my side. So how could? And by the way, no one woke up. So I show my wife, and she's like, "Oh my gosh." And then I have this like crazy intense desire to read the Bible. So I read the Bible and I pass out in like 2 minutes, and I wake up and the next morning I thought, man, did I have a wild dream? And then I see blood in my sheets, and I go in the bathroom and I have these bloody marks. And my wife goes, I think you were attacked by some supernatural being. And I was like trying to be logical about it. And I was like, yeah, I definitely was. And then I called one of my producers who's like, oh yeah, well, that's pretty common. I was like, what? And I've had a couple other experiences.
That's pretty common. Yeah, I'm sure it is. Anyways, look, it's a spiritual warfare, no doubt about it. At the core of everything, whether it's the communist or the militarist, it's definitely the Satanist. And I think a lot of people feel the same out there. Here's a few comments on Rumble. Let me look at this real quick. We have Aussie Girl that says, this is getting very scary, down to the wire very soon. On all fronts, Aussie Girl, on all fronts. On all fronts. We just have to decide if we want to go the way of just the scared, the timid, or if we want to go out in a blaze of glory. And I choose that one. Yeah, like the Thelma and Louise ending, I think. We have Misty over there on YouTube. Hello, Misty. Good to see you. Yes, it's a spiritual warfare. I'd say so. We have Claudine, who's very familiar with this matter. She says the following: put satanic in head to humanity. Yeah, they do. Yes, Skip thinks so as well. And so does Nigel Dyer, saying evil pushing fear and confusion and confuses. Yes. Here's a few more here. Here's a few more. Here is, and in England, they wanted to put, look, in 2010 in England, it was proposed on the parliament floor to put cameras in each and every home throughout the United Kingdom to prevent burglary. But God forbid you have a closed fist and you punch the scoundrel out, you're going to face a just very, very harsh sentencing in prison. Yes, you will. I must say. We have John Besglione. Thank you, John, for being here. I love this answer. Please write more things like this, John. You're such a poet. Go into the great beyond without fear, but maybe some trepidation. God, that needs to be in a scripted movie. I love that. John's my new script writer. And finally, David Nader says that witches are 100% real. I dated at least one. Well, Dave, at least you dated one. Some of us have done more. Not saying me, but thank you for that omission. Here's another one here. Aussie Girl who's on fire tonight says Canada wants to decrease its population by 14 million by 2045, starting in 2027. Well, this is what I was thinking too is 2025, right? The Deagle. We're supposed to be waiting for a major population decrease. And how many weeks we have left this year? What, 6 more weeks? It's something like that, something of that nature. something of that nature. And finally, here it is. Rebel Mama says, and I love it. Thank you. Thank you for this. Bring on the blaze of glory, Dean. That's true. And Lena Star Moon says the UK is whacked up. Okay, thank you for that. All right, we're going to leave it there. On that note, this weekend, I have to confirm a special time. I think I'm going to open up to the general public. I will be interviewing another show that's titled "Who Killed Kurt Cobain?" Yes, it is. This is it's a unsolved mystery, cold case, crime show. Which not until recently I didn't know that's a huge demographic over there on YouTube. But all that aside, the story of Kurt Cobain, I think, has been botched to the max for the past 30 years. And we're going to get to the bottom of it. And when you see the Seattle PD and the way they effectively went upon that investigation, it's as flimsy and flamsy as the JonBenet Ramsey case. Yet there is one common theme and factor behind the death of Kurt Cobain, because I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that Kurt Cobain did not kill himself. No. And the question that should be posed is, Courtney Love, what do you know? That's right. So we'll be getting into the thick with that story. I want to say Friday or Saturday. I have yet to confirm that. Tomorrow night will be a members only ordeal, as we now will celebrate the albums that turned 30 this year. Can you believe that? 1995 now is 30 years ago. And it wasn't until recently I looked back and I saw the incredible amounts of wonderful music that came out in that year particularly, and it blew my mind. So myself and Matthew Millen will be with our members tonight, and eventually you'll hear that down the road if you are not a member, but you can still become one tonight by going to realdealmedia.tv, realdealmedia.tv. Okay. On that note, I want to thank you for being here tonight. We want to thank Jim Fetzer. You can check his big conference coming in December. Also, Jim and I will be doing our holiday specials as usual, now that we have the tech back and everything. So I look forward to that. But in the meanwhile, for Jim Fetzer, everyone else here at Real Deal Media, I'm Dean Ryan saying thank you for sharing a bit of your night. Until next time, always remember to stay tuned and stay awake. Good night, everybody.